So I'm entering a room representing the room in which Jesus had his Last Supper with his disciples when he was betrayed by Judas. This is what it may have looked like. It's pretty modern. An area to place food on, and then a seat. Very similar to modern setup. This looks like an area where they may have slept, right? This looks like a pretty decent dwelling space, because that looks like a bed and the bed foot or a trunk, things stored above. So even though the typical housing area during that time was tents, there seemed to have been some structures that looked like this, that may have been made out of stone. Replicas of artifacts on the wall here. So let's go back out here. This is the gift store. All of this area is the front of the Historical Bible Center. Over here is this area with the 10 Commandments listed. Here is an altar of some sort, the incense altar on either side of this section here. Then you have stone of remembrance at the back. And again, this is a place that depicts the setting and layout of what life was like during Bible days. Here is another altar. This is the Canaanite Broad House. The Canaanite temples. The Broad House temples were mainly made of stone blocks, wooden beams, and mud. This reconstruction demonstrates what the common place of worship for Canaanite peoples might have looked like. The walls are made of field stones with mud mortar and a door facing east along one of the broad walls. Hence the name Broad House. Mud benches ran along the inside of the walls with one or more corners widening into utility benches. Then you have the many mysterious gods. The Canaanites worshipped two separate categories: the gods below, Chthonian, and the gods above, Uranian. The basin and altar were used to present offerings to various gods in the Canaanite pantheon. Here is an altar. So this area is the Canaanite Broad House. Here is a standing stone, another utility bench area. So what we just saw was the Israelite shrine. This area, seat of Moses. The Torah cabinet where scrolls were stored. Mikveh, where people came in to baptize. It's quite deep. Often they would get water from the river or a well nearby, and there would be a separate entry and exit point. The mikveh. So when you enter the Historical Bible Center, this is the first thing you see at the entrance, an altar. Above that altar is covered with some twigs, like. There's a baptistry. And this is what it had to say about the early church. The baptistry. Architecture. A nave is the central aisle in the church, and the apse is the arch-shaped niche generally behind the altar. So that's the apse, the arch-shaped niche behind the altar. This depicts a Christian church from the Byzantine period, 324 to 630. Christians did not want to use the architecture from pagan temples of Rome, so they mostly used architecture from public courthouses called basilicas. And then that little area there that we saw just now, the baptism. Infant baptism was first mentioned specifically in the 2nd century CE. Christian baptism evolved from the Jewish traditions of cleansing in the mikveh and the baptism of Jesus. Early church baptistries were generally cross-shaped like the one we have here. So, cross-shaped baptistries. 2 or 3 steps would lead down into the water, after which one would bow forward for full immersion. Full immersion in running cold water was preferred. Symbolism. While early Christians kept the Jewish aversion to symbols that could be used for idolatrous worship, certain images became very important to them. These images generally told a story of Jesus' life or represented something about the Christian faith. Under our altar, we have a mosaic of loaves of bread and fish, which is a copy of a mosaic found under the altar of the Church of the Multiplication at Abga along the shores of the Sea of Galilee. It was used to remind the congregation of Jesus' provision when he used 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish to feed over 5,000 people. Biblical History Center.
Okay, so I think y'all have already been outside checking out the time tunnel, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so that is the early houses of worship. It actually started chronologically. Here, this room is going to be David and Solomon exhibit, and this is on the main message in here is that the Bible, Jesus was in the Old Testament, didn't show up in the New Testament. We have replicas in here as well. They have some information. They're in these little display cases. Over here, it's going to be, back in this room, it's going to be an Egyptian exhibit. And it has replicas sitting back on the shelf, and a PowerPoint and a video to go with it. And an Egyptian mannequin dressed up in queen's attire back in the little room on the back side there, ma'am. And then we're going to come down here, and I'm going to show you the way out in the classroom.
The center of worship to the Lord. Almost half of the Old Testament writings took place.
Replicas on the wall.
In this room we have this is one of our 2 Roman triclinium dining rooms that we have a biblical meal reservation. You could, you'd be eating in one of these 2 rooms, and they talk about the Lord's Supper, the Passover, the significance and customs of foods in biblical times. Step right this way. Come on out. If you don't mind, ma'am, step on this way, and then we've got a video of Jerusalem in here, and that's going to be. We have YouTube videos, so you can get a list of the videos at my desk. Okay, if you want to watch them at home. The maps, there's 1, 2, and 3 over here. They have little white panels running down beside them. They have buttons and labels, so you can go over and push buttons and see where things light up at. We have Ark of Covenant and a tabernacle down front. Over here on the left is going to be a collection of older Bibles and from other countries. One of them has some information too.
Old Bibles.
And now we're going to get out into the garden.
Video of Paul's ministry.
Okay? And then here is where you start on pages 2 and 3, the map is, and then the next page, this is the Goat Hair 10, Oasis. It just kind of goes around in a semicircle, okay?
Okay.
All right. Well, I hope y'all enjoy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So,
The garden,
what is this garden? The garden of,
vines,
but what specifically in the Bible?
15, 1 to 3. Water lily.
Oh, they have some beautiful fish in this pond. See, beautiful, colorful fish. Again, this setup represents what life looks like in the Bible days.
Animal skin.
Yeah, animal skin over there. And these, I don't know what that is. What does that look like?
I don't know.
I don't know if this may be the inside of a house.
A tent.
So back then they probably didn't have structures. They had tents like this. So they lived in tents. That would be the inside of their houses. They had all these baskets and twigs and so on. That was part of the things they kept inside their homes.
Balance, something for
I wish they had offered more labels to this.
bull rush. Oh, the bull rush where Moses was hid. In the
Oh.
bull rushing.
Bull Rush. where Moses was hid as a baby in the basket.
Bulrush.
And then whose daughter came by
Was it Pharaoh?
and found the baby in the basket?
Exodus 2, 3, Papyrus. Bulrush 1. Exodus 2, 3, Bulrush.
Hmm?
Look like a water pot.
Yes. Again. And then there is a bench.
With a stone in front.
I don't know what that represents. But in those days, people lived in tents that looked like this. Where? Oh, yeah. So that suggests that life in those days may have been very cold because there are mittens here. And this might have been a gathering area.
Is this where they do sacrifice with this?
You mean the altar here?
So we were right.
Weaving the tent. The origin of the Hebrew people lies in ancient semi-nomadic society. Tents may date as early as 3000 BCE. The first 7 books of the Bible are rich in imagery from the tent. Tents were the main source of shelter for the Hebrews in Canaan. Normally, they were set up in an area protected from the gusty western winds predominating about 300 days a year. Tents face east to catch the early warmth of the morning sun. Black goat hair was woven into strips on looms anchored by pegs or stones just off the ground. The strips were then pieced together by thread, clasping metal loops or narrow wooden splinters. Woven goat hair was an ideal material for tents.
In the book.
Life in the desert. Tent and family structure. The tent was divided into 2 sections by a curtain. One side was for the woman of the household and the other side was for the man. The desert woman. A girl would start making her tent between ages 8 and 11. Typically, she would finish it by the time she had arrived at puberty, and socially would become available for marriage. Oh, when she did marry, her husband moved into the tent with her. The tent belonged to the woman because she was the one who had woven it together. However, it was also her responsibility to set up and take down the tent. The various wives of the extended family would each have their own tent. One half of the tent would be designated for the woman's use and would primarily be used for homemaking and child care. The man's side of the tent was for receiving guests. Desert hospitality to strangers has always been important due to the harshness of the land. Because of the larger upper body frame, the Bedouin man was also responsible for plowing a small section of land during the brief winter rains. They would plant wheat or barley to supplement the storage of their minimal food supply. Hospitality. Hospitality is important in nomadic culture. Men would often invite strangers into their tent as their guests. They would guard these guests from intruders, even when threatened with death. A Bedouin proverb goes, "Today's guest is tomorrow's host." It was important in this harsh environment to be hospitable, because you never know when you might need hospitality in return. Talking to guests was also an excellent way to get news before the age of television, smartphones, and newspapers. Wow. Life was hard and harsh for women. Oh my God. Life has always been harsh for girls and women. Do you notice? From an early age, they had to
Fend for themselves.
fend for themselves and do hard
Build their
labor.
shelter.
Yeah, from an early age, they had to start figuring out life, start building their own shelter. And by the time they got to puberty, around
to get
11, around 11 years old, they were made to get married and had to take on a husband. Wow, life was way too harsh. I would not like to live in those times. So, this is what a home looked like. Which way you think we should go?
having sections on the
Oh,
on the other side.
this looks interesting. Let's go see. We can go around it. The sheepfold. The sheepfold is closely associated with the nomadic lifestyle depicted in the Old Testament. Also, some of the earliest depictions of Christ show him as a shepherd. We're going up a hill. The threshing floor. In the ancient world, threshing floors were in danger of being robbed, as seen in 1 Samuel 23:1. Therefore, someone always had to sleep on the threshing floor until the food was removed and stored safely, like Boaz in Ruth 3. So this is an example of a
Threshing floor.
threshing floor. Let's keep going. We're going up there.
So this is a permanent sheepfold. If you had animals, you gotta have,
Oh, the crucifixion.
and so you can
Did I see something about the crucifixion?
and you can see we have what we call ancient barbed wire poking up just to keep your animals safe. But you've got a little wall here, and that's convenient so we can separate the sheep from the goats. Okay, the sheep will follow the goats are good animals. I've seen goats out here try to straighten around. I've watched it. I couldn't explain it, but it helped me understand the goats are gonna do what they wanna do. Now here's the gate.
Step up. Yes, these look like tombs. There's a body wrapped. Let me zoom in. So let me zoom in. If you look closely between those arches, in the middle arch, there's a body in that.
Herbs.
So yeah. What is that up there?
Rock.
Quarry. Yeah. We can go up there and read what it says. Be careful. Whoops. Oh, I'm messing up my shoes big time. Oh, so catacombs. The early church catacombs were all over the Roman Empire. Where geography allowed, not just on the Italian peninsula. Catacombs were mainly used as Christian and Jews from the 2nd to the 5th century, and was seen as an economical way to be buried due to the high cost of land and lack of space. So These are burial areas, catacombs, or burial areas that looks like this. Yeah. So we're going up these steps. The rock quarry. The rock quarry. Extracting stones. Many of the rocks quarried in Israel were limestone or chalk stone. Ancient rock quarries dotted the countryside of Israel were in the Middle East. Stone accounted for a majority of the building material. Relocating stones. Many rock quarries are found uphill so that the gravity would help move the rocks to the construction site. Hewn stone was used in building city walls, houses, palaces, roads, signs, milestones, weapons, furniture, and eating and storage vessels. Stones weighing hundreds of tons have been found in the supporting walls of Herod's temple in Jerusalem. Scholars do not agree how much immense blocks of stones were transported. However, it's known that some stones became their own wheels that would be rolled. Iron pulleys enabled construction workers during the Roman Empire to lift stones into place for tall structures using primitive cranes. So that's an example of a crane. This is an example of a crane that pulled rocks from the quarry. So this is a rock quarry. Go on, Don.
Then you'd walk into the Jewish villages, it'd be cross, 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 cross. You're walking in, and it's a don't mess up here, but we'll hang you, okay? We'll put you on a cross and let you hang. And they actually have records of people that hung on the cross for as much as 10 days.
Shaman.
So they didn't beat you the way they beat Jesus. Pilate was just trying to get out of killing Jesus. Because Jesus was a big name, he was a hot potato. Okay? He knew if I don't kill him, the religious leaders are going to be mad. If I do kill him, a lot of those Jews,
Careful.
they think he's something special. So he's kind of stuck there. And he said, how about I don't kill him? How about I don't kill him? Now, the feel that Pilate got a raw deal.
So this the well.
Pilate had been killing too many people. And he got an email from Rome. Rome said, Pilate, stop killing those Jews. You're going to make them mad, and they're going to revolt. You got this huge empire, and you want the surface to be nice and smooth. You don't want waves to happen. Stop killing those Jews. Plus,
The wells, which is very common, prevalent. That's how people got their water supply, from wells then.
Pilate was
What is this? What is this? This looks like an amphitheater. What's the famous amphitheater in Rome?
Olympian Olympus.
There was a. So all these steps. Maybe we'll find something kind of explaining this area. We'll come back there because over there they're talking about the crucifixion. And during this Holy Week, I was drawn to this museum because it's Holy Week. We're going through Holy Week, and I kind of wanted to be reminded of what life like in biblical days. So yes, the theater. The oldest surviving freestanding amphitheater in the world was found in Pompeii and was built around 70 BCE. The Roman built multiple types of structures such as the Odeon, amphitheater, circus, and stadium in order to entertain the citizens and promote the rulers that sponsored the sports and theaters in which they were held. So during those days, they had sports. The Colosseum was called the Flavian Amphitheater when it was built, but is now called the Colosseum due to its proximity to the Colossus of Nero. The Odeon type of theater was characterized by a roof. The Romans built them for town council meetings, poetry readings, music, and drama. Due to its smaller size and closed roof, sound would project from this stage. The theater was built so that the sound would bounce off the roof so that people in the back could hear just as the people in the front. The audience was permitted access to the theater through entryways built into it called vormitoriums.
Herbs and spices in the ancient Near East.
Let me take a look.
See that?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Frankincense, myrrh, and hyssop.
For thousands of years, herbs and spices have been used for multiple purposes in the ancient Near East, from giving color and flavor to food to giving a pleasant fragrance. To mask the scent of death, herbs and spices were used by kings and the gentry alike. Today, herbs and spices were indigenous to Israel and can still be found growing in the country. Today. Other herbs and spices were imported via the Silk Road, yet played just as vital a role as the homegrown herbs and spices did in daily life. Let's explore why the ancients, and us as well, heavily depend upon spices. Let's see. So, biblical units of volume measurements, dry measures and liquid measures. So these were the units of measurement in those days. Ephah, Sia, Omer, quart and cab. A quart is the only one that I'm familiar with today. Log, hin, and bath. Those are the biblical units of volume measurements, dry measures and liquid measure.
Israelite.
So here it is, a good view of inside of the Historical Bible Center and its layout. It's quite a detailed structure with a lot of stonework and stick, replicating what life looked like and the landscape looked like in the Bible days. You look at that shady tree in the distance. Okay.
I saw the city gate closed.
What is that? Upstairs.
That the 4-room house of them.
Be careful here, there's a slope. So let's see. These are artist tools, artisan tools. I guess that's their work area. I don't know that. Whoa! Look there. Look at this.
Please do not touch nor handle the tools.
There's a little lizard on that thing there.
That is not even green. I don't know what that is.
Oh, there it is. Let me zoom in on that lizard that's sitting on top of that rug. Oh no, there it is. See? So out here in nature, I imagine in those days, they had all of those.
Oh, the 4-room house. See, so this is what this is.
Do not disturb food or decor.
This is what kitchen, dining.
Oops. I'm gonna try to get out of this little place fast because you have these little reptilian.
Let me cover on this.
The 4-room house. The guests would sleep where they ate in a room called the Kataluma. Oh, so this is the guest area.
They sleep and they eat.
Guest area. Houses with similar architecture were uncovered by archaeologists in Israel. Despite varying sizes, most of the houses contained 4 rooms that were used for the same functions. The first room was the outer courtyard. This area was typically the entrance to the house and was open to the sky. The outer courtyard was used for cooking, preserving food, and making clothing material. The second room was a small space to keep domestic animals and dried fruits and vegetables, similar to a pantry. One might have kept a milking goat, doves, and chickens, as well as their pens and supplies in this area. Across from the pantry is the Kataluma. This room is used as a dining room and guest room to host overnight visitors. The room in the back of the house was where the family slept. This style of house reflects the gradual progression of the Israelites from shepherding tribes to a farming and village society. The roof of the house was almost flat, but slanted enough to drain off rainwater. It was supported by cedar or cypress logs and covered with myrtle branches. A heavy roof roller was used to flatten several inches of clay over the logs to keep out the rain, typically after the rainy season. The Israelites used the roof to dry flax and fruits and sometimes slept there in the summer when it was unbearably hot. So, this is what a family house 4-room looks like. Home on earth in Nazareth, Israel. Let's see. 1, 2. Let me go back over there. 2, 3, and then they said the outer part outside open up to the sky. So this might be, yeah. So this is the kind of tree that they would crucify someone on. Be careful. The Romans did not invent crucifixion, but they did try to perfect the execution technique. Crucifixion was invented by the Persians as a method of execution between 400 and 300 BCE. The Romans took crucifixion and made it their preferred method of torture and execution for 500 years, until it was abolished by Emperor Constantine in the 4th century. When dying of crucifixion, the victim's weight would be pulling on their arms, which would either be nailed or tied in place, gradually dragging the shoulders out of their sockets, as well as other joints within the arm, and elongating the arms by several inches.
Okay. What does it say? Does it say before he said
Crucifixion victims often had their legs broken to accelerate the dying process. With all of the weight on the chest, cause of death for the crucifixion victim would usually be suffocation, but lack of oxygen in the blood could also damage major organs, which would lead to death as well. Other fatal factors could be blood loss, dehydration, and shock. That was a barbaric, horrible way to execute someone. Agricultural terrors. Life in the Bible time was not a walk in the park. It was harsh, it was dangerous, and this is how someone would be crucified.
this is the level of my family group. This is the level of my animal place. I bring my animals in.
I'm gonna go over here up close to the olive tree. Be careful. Be careful.
But I can bring them in so they're safe from theft. Okay? And in the morning, okay, we
Here is a fig tree,
take the animals out and clean up. So it's kept clean. Look, there's a manger doesn't go too far.
and beyond this fig tree over there is an olive tree. A lot of these trees are found in the Bible land, in that region. Olive and figs. In the Bible, we read a story where Jesus cursed the fig tree and it just shriveled up, it just dried up.
He was born animal adjacent. He could have been born in a barn. He could have been born in a stable. He could have been born
This is a grape press. Growing grapes. Grapes were an important crop.
I use them to stamp.
Oh, so that's grape press. So they put the grapes inside these circular things, put the grapes inside there, and then hang on to the ropes and would step on the grapes to extract the juice. Grapes were an important crop to the ancient Israelites as its byproduct, wine. Okay. Yeah. The pressed grape juice is called the blood of the grape in Hebrew.
Okay. And then we'll go down this way and we'll go through the artifact gallery.
During the vintage season, from summer until autumn, they would gather the grapes, spread them out in the sun to increase their sugar content, and the grapes were then put in a stomping vat, where those stomping the grapes would sing psalms as the grapes were crushed under their feet. So this is called a stomping vat. This is a sacrificial altar.